So now I guess we have to talk about Suburban Spies. It did have kind of a cool opening title sequence. So if you were to ask me what's my favorite smoking bottle entertainment film, I'm not sure. I have a few that could vie for that, but if you were to ask me what's my least favorite is, I think it's Suburban Spies. Really, the lesson of that film was don't move forward with a large-scale production unless you're really invested in the script. So one of the things that was cool about the Cartoon Man movies was that I hit on this premise where I could do films that were full of special effects and all kinds of things, and there was a justification for why so many of the sets and the props were these really cheesy, crude-looking 2D cartoon drawings. It made sense in the context of those films. And I came out of that series feeling like, oh my god, I can do anything. And then I tried to write another script and realized, oh no, I can do anything if it's in the world of the Cartoon Man. Because I kind of tried to write a script for a sort of secret agent movie and quickly found it's like, I don't know how I'm going to find all these locations. I don't know how I'm going to get all these people. I don't know how I'm going to do this and that and that, and suddenly realized there are a lot of things I don't have any experience with. So rather than try to write the greatest script ever, I wrote a more simplified secret agent movie where the focus was more than anything on trying to build up my network, bring more actors into the fold, try to get some experience scouting out locations, finding different places to film. But I feel like the script was kind of half-baked. It was kind of something I threw together thinking it would be quasi-easy to do, and the thing is, all the films I've done have had all kinds of complications. I don't think Suburban Spies was significantly more chaotic in that respect. But the fact that I was kind of meh about the script from the beginning just made the whole thing feel that much more stressful and more, is this even worth it? It was one thing after another. I'd hold casting calls and people would show up, but there'd be like one crucial character that I didn't have anyone audition for, so I'd have to keep posting casting notices week after week. I finally get a guy to read for that part. Turns out he has no availability. I have to recast him. I finally get a cast. I try to find locations. I'm going into places asking, hey, can we film here? Most of the people are just like, we'll get back to you, and I never hear from them. It went on and on. I tried to hire crew. They backed out long before we started. Finally, I get to the point where I have a cast, I have locations, I'm able to get half a schedule sent out, we're days away from filming, and a snowstorm hits. That wiped out the first 2 days of shooting, and 2 of the actors had to drop out at that point. And all this was right before Christmas.
Ho 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 ho! Merry Christmas!
And so then I basically just have to wait out the end of the holiday season before I can even start trying to put the pieces back together again. So yeah, all of that kind of converged, and I have to say, I think the closest I've ever come to just pulling a plug on the project before it even began was on Suburban Spies. I think when we lost the second day due to snow, there was a part of me that really just wanted to email everyone I'd cast and say, look, never mind, we're not doing this. But I couldn't bring myself to do that. You know, I just had to remind myself that, okay, if you pull the plug on this, it'll be a weight off your shoulders initially, but then it's going to be, oh, now I have nothing to do. And the last 3 months have been for nothing. And it's not like I can just say, okay, but now we're doing a different film, because, I mean, I cast a lot of new people in that. What are they going to think? It's like, oh yeah, this thing got canceled, but sure, this other thing will go forward. So I plowed ahead with Suburban Spies, and it was actually fun filming some of the scenes, and I know a lot of the cast had fun. But it was a project where by the time we even got started, I was already kind of over it. And we still had even more struggles as it went along, so... Yeah, that was not my favorite. On the plus side, we did bring in some new actors in that who stuck around for a lot of future projects.
I remember arriving on set and it was freezing cold, and the wardrobe I was wearing for the scene did not have a lot of insulation. So suffice it to say, I was extremely cold and we were out there for a long time. But the thing that I remember the most is having only met Adam a couple times and being this reserved person socially and behind the camera. When he walked out in front of the camera as the star of Suburban Spies, he was this animated, full of life person. It was such a stark contrast to what I had been introduced to before. It was hilarious and it was an awesome experience, and I knew that being part of his productions would be something fun going forward.
Suburban Spies was notable for being the first film that I shot with the new camera, so it's the first smoking bottle film shot in 1080p HD, and I spent most of the production getting the hang of using the camera. I think there are a few shots that are a little out of focus, and it's the same camera I'm using now as of the time I'm recording this. It's the same camera I'm using to record this. But still, it's a film that, like, I have a hard time even watching it because it's not terrible. I just feel like the script, even in the beginning, was kind of mediocre, and with the difficulties I had with casting and locations, I had to keep slashing stuff out of it, so it just became something where it feels like there are some really funny scenes in it, but it just doesn't hold together. I actually think it plays better on YouTube, where it's chopped up into episodes. Because it's just the whole thing all at once just never felt like a complete movie to me. Whereas with the Cartoon Man, I would edit and shoot scenes and think, this is like the greatest thing ever. With Suburban Spies, it was more like, this is okay, I guess. You know, hopefully people who like the Cartoon Man will enjoy watching this too. It's got some of the same people in it. It was just never something that I thought was that great, and so it just made it that much harder to keep pushing through when stuff would go wrong. And by the end of it, I was actually starting to question, is this something I still want to do? I don't know if, you know, this is as much fun as I thought it would be when I was starting out. I mean, it's alright, but as I was working on Suburban Spies, I came up with an idea that was a bit more exciting. I started thinking back to when my brother and I would play with toys and come up with stories about this dysfunctional group of Disney characters that would fight wars against an army of Beanie Babies, and think, how would a movie of that look in live action? I mean, you'd have, like, people in animal costumes running around with guns, and wait a minute, that's awesome. And so I kind of combined that concept with some of my nostalgia for some camping trips I went on in middle school, and that was the genesis of Revenge of the Animals. Revenge of the Animals was the first film that really felt like a feature film. The Cartoon Man movies and Suburban Spies, in terms of running time, could arguably be considered features, but just Revenge of the Animals just felt like it was on a scale beyond anything we'd done up to that point. I had a job at that point where I was making enough that I was able to spend some money on the film, so I was able to get a better microphone, and I went out and bought guns and animal masks. It was quite an experience going into a costume shop in the middle of July, nowhere near Halloween, and buying a few $100s worth of prop guns and animal masks. The masks were actually on hooks, like up in a corner of the store, so I had to have the guy go back there with me and get up on the stepladder and tell him, yeah, I'll take this one, and yeah, this one. And so the people, I'm the only one in the store. The people in the store are looking at me like, why are you buying all these guns and animal masks? And I kind of had to explain the premise of the movie. It's, you know, it's about people in animal masks who hunt humans, and Nowadays, I buy most of my stuff online, but, you know, just even beyond that, Revenge of the Animals just felt like it was on a level beyond any of the previous films. You know, like with Cartoon Man, Suburban Spies, it would usually be I'd have 1 or 2 people come over my house, we'd film stuff for a few hours, and then they'd leave. We'd have some days like the final battle scene where it was more than that, there'd be more people and longer days, but Revenge of the Animals was the first one where every day was like that. We would shoot long hours every day. I think there were like at least 6 or 7 people on set. We'd usually meet up at my house, we'd drive to the woods, then we'd drive around at different spots in the woods, and sometimes it was a struggle to find parking because who knew that many people want to walk around the woods in September. And also, we like never finished everything on the schedule for that day. We would shoot so late that it would get dark and we'd have to call it a night. I'd drain the camera batteries and we'd be in the middle of the woods so we couldn't charge them. I filled up all the memory cards one day. There was a night when it started raining before we could finish, and it was like, on top of all this, I'm dealing with the schedules of all these actors. Most of the scenes have a lot of people in them, and we didn't get started until mid-August of 2014, so we had a limited time to shoot the movie before the leaves were going to start changing and just ruin all continuity. To this day, I am not sure how we got Revenge of the Animals done. There was a week where I was just having sleepless nights thinking, that's it, we're going to have to pull the plug, at least for now, resume next summer, possibly have to recast a few people. Somehow we pulled through and got it done by the end of September. And it was another hilarious film. There were times I would just be editing and bust out laughing.
I think my favorite role would have to be Victor. Victor is like, he loves skateboarding, the band Hanson, and he's a cop. So he's kind of rough and tumble, you know, thinks he's, you know, maybe too cool for school.
I mean, it's not perfect. There's issues with sound and color correction and some continuity issues, but, you know, in contrast with Suburban Spies, I loved the script for Revenge of the Animals. Riboflavin.
In all of human history, there have never been such sweet, sweet tunes as those written by Hanson.
Let me tell you about this time I ate a cat.
What?
I think my most memorable moment of Revenge of the Animals was actually lines said by the actor Colin. We get there and we all get out of the car ready to go to our campsite, and someone comes out of the trunk, and it's Fred, Colin's character, and the first thing he said is,
"Where are we, in Mexico?"
I couldn't stop laughing. I remember that to this day, and just how he delivered it.
You know, the original version of it had this whole army of animal people chasing us around, but the stuff I liked best about the script was just some of the interactions between the characters, so I was able to reduce it down to this skeleton group of 3 animal mask people, but still retain most of the moments that I really liked. Revenge of the Animals played in the 2015 Granite State Film Festival in Nashua. It was a, you know, really small scale thing, just in a side room of a hotel, but at that point, it was exciting to be in a film festival, to get to go on Facebook and say, hey everybody, Revenge of the Animals just got into a film festival. I mean, really, in my experience, about half the excitement of film festivals is getting to post on social media about it. I was able to get a pretty good crowd to come out and see it. It was mostly people I invited who would have seen the film one way or another anyway, but, you know, just being able to say, this was in a festival, that was cool. My character in Revenge of the Animals was also the origin of the blue shirt and suit jacket look that became my go-to outfit for public appearances.